So today we'll be going over the topic what are messaging queues and why do we need them exactly. So if you are into this tech world, right, you must have heard cool names like Kafka, Amazon SQS, Rabbit Messaging Queue, and tons of other names, right? So these all are examples of messaging queues that are used by different companies for different use cases. So a messaging queue is just like any other queue, right? But it is a queue of messages or events. So what happens in a messaging queue is there is someone who sends the message to the queue, is called usually a sender or a publisher, and there is someone on the receiving end which listens to these events or messages, which is often called a receiver or a subscriber. Next comes the question, why do we need them? Okay, these are very cool, different people are using them, but why do we need, if let's say I'm introducing messaging queue to you, why do you need them, right? Let's take an example of an e-commerce application to know this better. Let's say we are a user, we are trying to place an order on an e-commerce application. So we place an order, that request goes to that web server of that application, and for the assumption part, let's assume this web server can serve only one request at once, which is a pathetic assumption, to be honest, because technically it can, any web server or application server can serve multiple tons of I mean thousands of requests at once. But for the assumption part, let's assume it only can serve one request at once. Now the order is placed. Okay, we send the order to that web server, the order is placed. Next, the web server tries to call notification service. Okay, a notification user service which sends email or SMS to the to users to tell them that the order that you have placed is successful. So let's assume our order is placed, the web server pushed that message to notification server, but due to some reason the notification server is taking time to process that request. Okay, so that notify user is still, the call is still happening and the notification server is taking time to process that. So what happens if another user tries to place an order to that web server at this point in time? Since the previous request is not over, because what happens if notification server, that call fails, our web server has to re send that request to that notification server. So technically the web server is busy. So if another user tries to place an order at this point in time, so as our web server can only send one request, the server will be busy and the user will not be able to place an order at this point in time, which is a very bad user experience. And on top of that, you are losing customers. So somebody who is trying to buy something from your application, you are stopping them from buying. So this is losing business or losing money directly, right? Let's just introduce a messaging queue in this scenario now to see how things change. You're again trying to place an order to that web server, but this time, on placing that order, instead of calling notification server directly, our web server puts that message in a messaging queue, right, which we have placed newly. Let's call it notification queue. And on successful placement of that order, our web server puts this message, or you can call it as an event of order, to that notification queue, right? So immediately once this web server puts that message to that queue, its job is over. Now the web server becomes free to serve another request. Why? Because that retrying mechanism and everything will be taken care by the notification queue from here now. So if let's say another user tries to order at this point in time, our web server will accept that request, serve that request, and again put that request in the notification queue. And the notification server will now act as a receiver or a subscriber to this queue and will read orders one by one from this notification queue. the notification server can still take time to respond. That situation can still occur, but that retrying and everything will be taken care by notification queue. So there might still be delay in you receiving message that your order has been placed, but a late notification is still a lot better than losing your customer and losing out money. That order is placed, you have got the money, it's just you acknowledging that back in some minutes, which is still fine, right? So this whole thing is called decoupling or asynchronous behavior, in which we have done things, right? The web server is kind of loosely coupled with that notification service by introducing a notification queue in between. So yeah, this was the whole concept of using a messaging queue. This is why a bunch of companies are using this, right? And I'll see you in the next video.